All right, welcome back. Solo video here, Derek. And in this video, I'm gonna talk about the 7 struggles that I faced moving from the Philippines to Canada. And also I'll give you some tips on what I did to overcome those struggles. So if you're ready, thanks again for checking out the Fire Frontier channel. Give this video a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and let's get into the video. So number 1, the first struggle I encountered while moving from the Philippines to Canada is really the cultural differences. It's easy to get excited and to see it all as a new opportunity, which it is. It really is. But having a different language, different slang, different way of looking at things, understanding things, doing things, that can really give you a shock, right? It can have a shock to your senses. So remembering the first time I got to Canada, I felt like I was, stepping outside of our house back then. And walking in the neighborhood, I felt like I was in a movie. I felt like I was in a movie set, right? Seeing the people, there was some different people, white people, black people, different types of people I've never seen before. It was all new to me, right? So it was a bit of a shock. And even the way they spoke, the way they had different jokes, the way they ordered food or even looked at things was totally different, right? I was unprepared for it because obviously I wasn't exposed to it. So that was one thing I struggled with a little bit in Canada. What I did about that is I just started to get involved, right? I started networking. I started really listening to what they were saying, what they meant when they were saying it, the different terms. I tried to put the terms into use myself in my daily practice. So really just getting involved and trying to be open to the new culture is what really helped me overcome that struggle. Some of the things that I did include signing up for a French language class, right? Trying to do some stand-up comedy, some stand-up speaking engagements in a group setting, going to different interviews for jobs, watching local television, local news, reading the local newspaper, talking to the bus drivers, just trying to get involved, right? And then surrounding yourself with that new culture so you can start to slowly assimilate and then know how you can also, how that new culture can benefit you moving forward. All right, number 2. Second struggle is employment challenges. And this applied more so to my parents as well as me, because coming from the Philippines, my dad used to work for the government and my mom used to be a professor for a school. I was also then I was in the military actually, working in the call center as well with an almost university degree. So moving to Canada, employment opportunities, especially for my parents, weren't as in line to their previous qualifications, right? So what you have to do is really start from the bottom and then you can work your way through mid-level roles and whatnot if you find the right opportunities, the right people, right connections. But in general, you typically do have to start from the bottom and then find a way to get your credentials either assessed, and even that can be an issue, or get refresher programs so that you're qualified to then have that position. What I did to overcome that is really, once I got in with a company, I strived, really, right? I strived and tried to really work my way up, because once I got in, that's it. It's open playing field, right? You can get in from the bottom, but then the opportunity to move up can be very fast, right? So overcoming that struggle, you can be open, should be open, especially if it's your only option. Start from the bottom, but once you're in, the opportunity to accelerate and get going fast is there for you as well. All right, that brings us to number 3, is your credentials. So moving into Canada, I had an almost university degree. One more semester before I would have finished my mass communications degree in the Philippines. And then coming to Canada, there's a process where you have it certified, you pay a fee, they seal it with a red ribbon, and then what they claim is that's good enough for that to be credited, right? So when I got to Canada and I tried applying to different universities and took my documents in, it pretty much covers me for high school education. And even with my documents assessed, I was still asked to go back to grade 10 math and English to prove that I had the competency to move into university. So That's just the reality of it, right? And there are newer programs right now in BC, different provinces where, especially in fields where employees are in demand, they can fast track and review your credentials. But in general, having your credentials recognized can be a challenge. What I did instead is that when I did not get admitted to university, I was requested to go back to high school. I applied at a college, right? So there are options to fast track your education and get a diploma instead of a degree. And these diplomas put you out in the workforce much faster than going through a 4 or 5 year degree, right? 3, 4, 5 year degree. So in a year, 2, 3 years, you could finish up a diploma program that gets you in the workforce fast. So that's exactly what I did. I took on a paralegal diploma program for 15 months. And after 14, 15 months, I was done. I was in the job market working for an immigration lawyer. I had, I was already exposing myself to other opportunities, already learning new skill sets that's also now recognized in the country, right? So unfortunately, it might not be what you want to hear. Again, there are programs to fast track some types of people's credentials, but overall, you want to get certified and you want to go through the Canadian system to get your education acknowledged as well. Number 4, a big struggle that I know a lot of new Canadians experience is the financial pressure, because moving to Canada without much experience in how the country works, there's going to be a lot more living expenses. But the good thing about it is that there's also a lot more opportunities to actually chip in and cover yourself as a family unit in that case. Because what happened with us is that in our first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we had to come together as a family, right? And although I was already 20 years old, my brother was already 22 years old, we still had to all live within one roof. Me and my brother were sharing a bedroom, right? For the first 1, 2 years until we moved out. But it's a necessity, right? In order to survive as a unit, you have to come together, right? And maybe make those sacrifices. You may or may not want to stick around with your family for that amount of time, but sometimes it's what's necessary to address that additional financial burden that comes living in a new country. What we did was essentially that we lived together as a family, and then after that, after we built up our savings, after we started to pay off the debts that we had, we started to then be more independent and move out. All right, so number 5, the 5th struggle I faced is regarding your residency status and your legal status. In Canada, there are certain job positions or types of government benefits or limitations on travel that are only allowed to specific types of people. Right, so coming into Canada, we started off as permanent residents. And from the Philippines, moving to Canada, I wanted to get into the military. Unfortunately, at that time, permanent residents were not allowed to be in the military. You had to be a citizen, right? It might have changed at this time. I'm not sure. But back when I was a permanent resident, I wasn't allowed to get in as in the military, right? Or in the search and rescue department that I was looking into getting into. You're also limited with travel, with the amount of time you can stay or you can leave the country. And some people struggle with that because they might have some obligation, they might be homesick. So be ready for that. And just know that there might be opportunities that might be only available when you've had, you've processed your applications, your forms, and you're a full citizen versus being a temporary resident, a permanent resident, moving into that full citizenship. All right, the sixth struggle that I faced is really just being homesick, right? Homesick and missing my friends, because I left when I was 21. And at that time, I've built a life already. I had friends, tons of friends, lots of acquaintances, lots of things going on, the prime of my early days. So moving to Canada and losing that overnight, right, can really have an impact on you. So be prepared to either stay in touch with them remotely or also be prepared to maybe find new friends, right? Network in other circles, which is what I did. Started going into different communities, my own Filipino community, outside communities, and networking events, right? And just going out and trying to find new friends, making new friends, and starting to plant new roots, right, in the new place that you've then moved to. As they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But as I say, when in Rome, have fun like the Romans do. So make some new friends, have some fun, and you should be good to go. All right, and finally, the last thing, the biggest thing that I struggled with moving from the Philippines to Canada is really learning the systems, right? You have your government systems, you have your tax systems, and then you have your health systems. So in Canada, you have certain benefits for being a permanent resident, a citizen in your healthcare. You also have certain benefits with your taxation with certain accounts. You have government benefits, and then you also have some tax opportunities, tax strategies that you can take advantage of. And the biggest thing that I personally struggled with is me already having a bad relationship with finances and money, which is the same mindset I brought to Canada. I had a very scarcity driven approach with money where if I have it, I'll try to, either I'll just mindlessly spend it and scratch my itch right then and there, or unless it gives me that dopamine high, I won't let it go, right? I feel like it's a loss. But by understanding these systems in Canada, you can actually make your money work for you. And by just being a little bit more mindful, a little bit more educated with how it can work for you, your money can work for you, and you can use time. Time can be on your side. So I struggled a lot with that because now there's an influx of money coming in. And in my mind, I thought it would never stop. I think it would never stop. And I just mindlessly spent it, not knowing that I was hitting different tax brackets, not knowing that I could have been taking advantage of different types of accounts, buying different stocks with the company because they're matching it. There's a lot of strategies, but it really starts by educating yourself and knowing that there's more that you can do for yourself as a new resident, not just be enamored and not just have rosy colored glasses with the new place, right? So thankfully now I've learned to acknowledge that and start to overcome it. But if that's the one biggest tip that if I could give myself back in the day, maybe I wouldn't be making these videos in this point. But anyways, those are the 7 struggles I've faced personally moving from the Philippines to Canada, and then what I did in order to overcome them. So if you are maybe a newcomer to Canada, or if you're struggling to adapt, assimilate into the Canadian way of life, or if you're planning to move to Canada, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you know somebody who needs to see this video, feel free to share it with them. Give us a thumbs up as well, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.